Greetings once again, Patreon. I am Captain Logan. It's time once again for Geekvolution After Dark. As you can tell, looking at Eric right now, it is well after dark. We are both somewhat tired, but we are gonna do our level best and chat with you for the next hour, or chat for you for the next hour about all kinds of random things that we have thought of to talk about. Eric, let's go ahead and jump right into it. We're going to put an hour on the clock. Eric and I just had an evening of fun. We went to the bar, we drank a little bit, we came back, we watched a movie for next week's Geekvolution Omnibus, because we were supposed to do one this week, actually right now, in this time slot, as it were, and my schedule didn't line up well for that, because I have other things going on next week that I didn't want to have to be doing, or in a couple weeks that I didn't want to have to be doing, and After Dark... a omnibus at the same time as I was doing that. So I had to move it back a week, which gives us more time to watch more things, and lots of requested things that we've got to knock out. We just watched The Descent, which was not the kind of movie to watch right before we do an After Dark. I don't think it's a real dark, super depressing movie. So it like drops the mood a little bit, but also really, really hard to look at that movie. Like, I mean, I don't mean in a bad way. I just mean like, you know, you're like my eyes are heavy now, because I watched The Descent, you know? So, like, descended into exhaustion, as it were. So did Eric. As you can tell, we'll see if he's even able to get through his first topic without yawning like 50 times. Okay,
sure.
Are you ready, Eric? 1 hour on the clock, and what would you like to talk about first, sir?
This is something I was thinking about the other day.
Yeah.
Are there any franchises that you think... like, have yet to have, like, kind of the definitive video game, or, like... Like, not a franchise that hasn't had a video game. Like, if you were to say, like, The Matrix. Like, there's been Matrix video games, but maybe not, like, the video game.
Yeah, sure.
So, like, I guess really the question is, like, what's something you think is kind of ripe for a video game, but not necessarily like something that just, well, that's already had a video game, so therefore, you know, I'm not even going to say that, but like something that, like...
So it doesn't matter if it's had it already.
Yeah, just something you think is really remiss, or, you know, could make a really good video game.
Yeah, well, the first thing that springs to mind is, these days, action movies and science fiction movies in general, because we got scared of movie tie-in games, and now there's a lot of...
No, there's none.
There's a lot of great things that would have been ripe for that we totally skipped.
Mm-hmm.
And in MCU entirely, after Iron Man 2, after Captain America First Avenger, nothing. And besides
Captain
like
America
Lego games.
And Thor were notoriously really bad.
Where is the Great Jurassic Park game? We had...
In arcades. You sit down, you have like a gun.
That's right, yeah, and why don't we port more rail shooters? True. And why aren't rail shooters a bigger deal at home anymore? And some of that, I think, is because... I'm just running off the rails, jumping all over the place right now. Jumping off the rails, talking about rail shooters. I think we were in a really good place with rail shooters when the Wii was out, because it was motion control already, and
I don't think we put
we didn't, and we missed that opportunity. And now that opportunity we could refine that with the Switch, because you can do the exact same thing. You can point those controllers, you know, the Joy-Cons, you know, at the screen.
And they are taking more risks with the kind of games they're putting on there.
Yeah, they absolutely are. But that's a little side tangent, because we do those on this show. It would be nice to see rail shooters come back and to see more arcade games ported in general. But you know, past the 16-bit era, you didn't really have, and I'm not saying there were any brilliant Jurassic Park games, but there were a couple of really fun ones. But that's one of those franchises that I think you could do a really great 15-20 hour, you know, action horror, survival horror kind of game with.
Did we ever make? Oh yeah, you could do a really good survival horror. Did we ever make like a Roller Coaster Tycoon? Kind of like a park builder for Jurassic Park?
Yeah, on Facebook.
Oh.
There's a Facebook builder. It's decent. I've played it.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's not bad. Okay. It's exactly what you would have wanted for that. Well, I mean, not exactly what you would have wanted for that. It's obviously not like 3D rendered and stuff, but there is a park builder.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's kind of fun. But yeah, so like I'm trying to think of other like really good recent action movies, but I feel like just in general this has been a thing we've been really remiss on. We're scared of it because we used to just pump them out real fast, and they were always really shitty.
Well, and right now shooters are so popular. I think it would be really easy for like. What would make a John Wick game stand out?
That's precisely where I was about to go, actually, was John Wick, yeah.
Yeah, but what would make that stand out from every other shooter? What would you do with that franchise that would make it distinct?
After the first one, you have an argument. After the second one, much more distinct world, right?
Well, yes.
Like at that point, it would be fun just to get to interact with those environments.
And I guess something you could do that I don't think we have a shooter that does is like being able to use anything as a weapon, like being able to kill somebody with a pencil and things like that.
No, I would say that because the way you framed that question, it's almost like it's almost like you're saying there are so many that we made a game, but it wasn't great for. That your mind always immediately goes to that, where you wouldn't be able to think of any that didn't have that. I disagree. I think there's a dearth of really good quality games based on other source material right now.
So what made me think of this?
Yeah.
What was the genesis of this? Was I was at work and I saw like a random Harry Potter game, and I was like, "Wow! Like really, all we did was some not great, kind of shitty, passable if you're 12 Harry Potter games, and then like some like fucking like Quidditch and things like that."
Right.
Boy, that's a world that could have like a great video game. Like once you get away from the movies and you're just in that world,
I think
you could have a real great.
In the mid 2000s, they were all the same genre. That was the problem with them.
Yes.
They were all 3D action games. Look at
slight platformer.
Right, and what we would and obviously the problem, as I was suggesting earlier, was that we were just crapping those out because they were so popular, right? Because those movies were so popular, and we weren't really thinking beyond the kinds of things that have sold in those genres before. But if you really took some risks, you like Arkham did, and you tried to build some really good mechanics around things, the first question you'd ask yourself is not how do you make this an action game? It's should this be an action game? Harry Potter should be an RPG.
Yeah.
All the way.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm not even an RPG guy, but that just strikes me as the obvious way to go. And I mean, it can have action elements. It could be an action RPG. It could be more of a Fable kind of thing as opposed to a turn-based.
Well, and what I played of the Harry Potter games is a lot of like
the battles go, but
spells are more just like abilities you get. Like, no, you build your game around the spells.
Of course.
You come up with a bunch of spells, and maybe like spell crafting, you can like use spells together and things like. No, that's the core of your game.
Yeah, and on the other hand, I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention that it's maybe important for the artistry of video games in the last 10 years, especially that that we haven't had as many things based on pre-existing source material, because that's where all the original IPs are right now.
That's true.
You get a lot of new stuff you've never heard of in video games compared to in film and compared in television. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Lots and lots of video games come out that are things I've never heard of because we make shit up there.
I've at work I've like walked through the PlayStation 2 aisles and like looked at all these franchises. And I'm like, what happened to all of these?
Yeah.
Where's Medal of Honor? Where's was it like Siphon Filter or whatever that game franchise was? I don't think they even made it off the PlayStation.
Would you agree that video games are not likely to be like movies, at least to the degree that those have gotten, where everything comes back? I don't think everything comes back.
No.
Now, sometimes that's because of licenses that get lost and because of houses that close down and that kind of thing. But
certain franchises are just dead, and I don't think they'll come back. I think there's a couple of franchises that will most likely keep sticking around. Like, I think we will keep making... trying to think of something now.
Yeah, sure.
I guess Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider is something that like we just keep trying because it's like an iconic video game thing. All of Nintendo's properties, they, like, Metroid Prime is very different from Metroid. There will always be some kind of that. We'll
but
keep
that's
trying
because
every once in a
all
while.
the clout with those companies. But when you get some of these smaller things, and you get like old PlayStation attempts at mascots and things like that. Like I don't know if just because we just released a trilogy of Crash Bandicoot, I don't know if Crash Bandicoot keeps coming back forever.
Well, and there's
we might try it again. I don't know if we keep doing it, and I'm sure you've noticed. There have been several. I can't think of a good example right now. There have been several old developers. Oh no, I can think of one. Echo the Dolphin had this. There have been several developers that have attempted to bring back an old franchise through crowdfunding and couldn't get enough money raised.
Interesting.
He tried to bring back Echo, and not enough people care. Or was it Echo? I might be thinking of something else. Maybe that was the thing. Where
It's interesting because when I look at Kickstarters for video games, it seems like everything's just a slam dunk. Just like if they say they want to make it, everyone's just like, yeah, take our money.
Yeah, no, there are things where they just can't get it done.
Because the Mega Man guy did Mighty Number 9, which did not turn out well.
Oh goodness.
And the guy who did all the Castlevanias I like, they wouldn't let him make Castlevania games anymore. And so he's like, well, I'm just going to go keep making those games, call it something else. It's called Bloodstained. I'm still waiting for it to come out. I'm super excited.
Yeah.
But, like, all of the video...
And I'm not really into this kind of genre, but I was curious about the Friday the 13th game just because that was crowdfunded, and I thought that was really interesting. And it's out now, and I heard it was really buggy at first, or repetitive, or something. People didn't like it, but I think that's one of those that they claim to have fixed. I may be talking out my ass right now. I'm not totally sure if I'm right about what exactly happened with that. But it's kind of a bargain game. It's like $40.
They fucked up the release of that. So they released it digital download only.
Yeah,
because
that is physical copies. I don't know if you know that.
Well, that's what they fucked up.
I saw that at like Walmart or Target or something.
So they released it.
Oh, it wasn't anything in the actual gameplay. That was
the
problem?
No.
Okay.
People had issues with the gameplay, but it all seems like stuff that they could have fixed. People complained because it's a group versus Jason, and apparently Jason is like really hard to kill.
Oh,
and
that's
people
right.
didn't like that.
Okay.
But I don't know how else he would do that.
Yeah.
Unless Jason was just an AI, but I feel like it's more fun if somebody gets... And it's randomly assigned who gets to be Jason. No, what they fucked up with that was... they released it, as an online game, and said they would not release it physically until they had the first person... The solo player mode done.
Yeah.
Because they said they were making that. They released the disc like 2 months later. I think there is... It's been almost a year. I think there is still not a single-player version of that game.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay, see, I wouldn't play it.
And they released it as like a $40 game.
Right.
That's a mistake.
Yeah. No, that's totally a mistake, yeah.
But
to answer your question,
I do think there was a definitive slasher game to be made.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just a genre. Like, regardless of character, there's a definitive slasher game to be made.
One of going back to the superhero place, one of the big character people always bring up, never had a good game. How come we can't make a good one as Superman? And I want to say you and I have gone rounds about this, where it's really difficult to figure out how exactly you do that and not make him so powerful that it's stupid if it's difficult,
or the game's so difficult that you don't feel like Superman.
Yeah, exactly. And once again, I don't know if Superman makes for a good action game, as weird as that is, because he's got so many powers and you want to get to use them, and I can't tell you what exactly that should be. I'm not saying a Superman RPG is necessarily the way to go.
No, but you could do something that's more puzzle-solving based, something more Portal-esque, where it's, yes, you can punch through everything, but the scenarios involve something like Lex Luthor has a bomb here, a hostage here, and something here, and you have to figure out how to...
That's sort of kind of what the 64 game was going for.
Sure.
But you could do that effectively. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and I think what...
and you could do something a lot more character-driven, where, if you had... like sleuthing levels where you had to be Clark Kent and that kind of thing.
I think it would have been very easy before Arkham to be like, well, how do you make a Batman game where it's not just like every other action game? Like, I think it's there, I just don't know exactly what it is for Superman. Like, there is a definitive Superman game to be made.
Yeah, it's just, we haven't had the right idea guy on it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there are myriad answers to your question.
Yeah, I was just interested to know, like, what franchises immediately jumped out at you as, like, these... This is something that has... that that could make for a great video game that hasn't yet or hasn't been used well yet.
Yeah. Like I said, Jurassic Park's one of my big go-tos. It really bugged me that we got a Lego game and nothing else when that came out, because we finally got a real actual working park, and I wanted to explore it, and I don't understand why you couldn't make that game. And that could be an open world game easily.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be really cool to just, like the first couple levels, the park hasn't gotten messed up yet, and you use that time not for a tutorial, but to learn how to use your whatever it is you have, to figure out your button configuration and your weapons and stuff, and then you and to explore the park, and you know where things are, and then suddenly the dinosaurs get loose, and then you'll deal with the dinosaurs the whole game. And again, just make it a survival horror thing.
Yeah. No.
I mean, I'm suggesting that for Jurassic World. I mean, I think a great Jurassic Park game could be made too. I get really frustrated when Telltale makes something I've always wanted to see as a more action-oriented thing, and they just have a story thing, which is cool if the story's good.
No, because Jurassic Park as a survival horror game is so easy. It's just like, and then someone goes to the island.
Yeah.
And now they're on the island.
Yeah, it's not. But I still want the Jurassic World just after just after the working park was going, But
I mean, I guess you can get that somewhat in Jurassic Park, because like the park worked, it was just never open to the public.
Sure. Yeah.
But
you got like rides and shit.
That's true.
With Jurassic World, it would be like Disneyland goes horribly wrong, and that sounds like a lot of fun to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, we could sit here all day and throw out examples, I'm sure. But that's a great question. Eric, I want to say you've answered this for me before, but I don't think we've talked about it on camera. Describe for me we were having some drinks earlier. Describe for me the drunkest you've ever been. And also, are you the kind of person who, when you drink, you tend to get drunk, or do you just get somewhat like, inebriated, but you're functional? Like, do you like and do you like the feeling of being drunk?
Well, it's changed since I moved here. Before I moved here, I rarely drank,
that's what living with me does to you.
Well, part of it's because everyone only ever had like coconut rum and beer, and
stuff you don't even care for.
Yeah, and whenever someone would mix a drink, I'd be like, because I have this thing with alcohol where it's like it tastes like mouthwash, right? Like I don't like the taste of alcohol, and so whenever someone would mix a drink, they're like, oh, you won't even be able to tell. I'm like, I drink. I'm like, nah, it still tastes like everything else.
Yeah,
like it's like tea.
And you don't like tea.
I don't like tea. And people are like, well, you just haven't had the right tea. So many fucking people have told me, you just haven't had good tea. I keep having all this good tea. I just don't like it. Yeah. And so, like, it was like that. The drunkest I've ever been...
I never told you that because I know a lot of people who don't like tea.
Yeah.
And you're never going to make them happy.
No, the way I always explain my tea thing would be like, if you didn't like soda because you didn't like carbonation, and people kept handing you different sodas, like, no, you're just not drinking the right soda. It doesn't... Whatever it is about it that you don't like, it's still there in all of them.
Yeah.
It's elemental to what it is.
So what changed about moving here? Did you just discover more drinks where...
Yeah.
That was all right, or...
Well, part of it was hanging out with CJ, who introduced me to whiskey, which I've discovered I like quite a bit.
Yeah.
And tends to be my drink of choice now.
Yeah, I like whiskey, too.
It was really just kind of opening up past, like, beer.
Yeah.
And, like, being able to have access to, like, other liquors kind of a thing. Before I moved here, I think the drunkest I'd ever been, just because it was, like, it's the only time I can remember distinctly getting, like, sick, was one of the first times I drank. And it was really funny because I told my mom, I was talking to my mom that day, and I was like, oh, we're gonna drink later, and she's like, okay, well, just so you know, when you feel drunk, stop drinking, because if you keep drinking, that's when you get sick. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm 20, I know what the fuck I'm doing. I might have been 21. I'm not sure if I was legally old enough to drink or not. Some of the people, me and all my friends kind of lived together, and some of us were old enough and some of us weren't.
Yeah.
So like I'm drinking, and I go outside, and I light up a cigarette, and I'm like, oh man, I'm pretty drunk. After I finish this beer, I'm gonna, and I just threw up.
Oh, that's nice.
But
that's no fun.
No, I've found, like, I kind of know what my limit is.
Yeah.
So like I will get drunk. I don't just get tipsy. Like I get pretty drunk. I think I can not hide it, but like you saw me earlier today when we went drinking.
Yeah.
Like I'm drunk. But I don't.
mean, I don't think you had enough that I would even use that word. Like
I mean,
think
I had
you
3 drinks of whiskey.
Yeah.
No, I was drunk.
Okay.
But I don't go much past that. I don't get
Like,
to like.
I don't know if I would have described myself that way, and I think I had more than you did. But maybe you would have. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like I was in a tipsy place, but I
don't have an interest in getting.
I do hide it pretty well.
I mean, yeah. Because you being drunk is not very dissimilar from when you're just silly.
Yeah.
Well,
and I also lay that on thicker because I'm because at that point I'm looser and I'm more open to it, right?
But so like I get drunk. I don't have any interest in being like falling over yourself like dangerous.
Yeah.
No,
I don't like that either.
I like being drunk just because it's kind of fun, to kind of take the edge off, kind of a thing. But I don't have interest in like
if
getting.
You're in a safe place and you're not.
I don't have interest in like getting blackout drunk. I have interest in getting trashed.
Yeah.
And I never had. Part of it is because I don't like not being in control of myself.
Same here.
Yeah. And so I have a level I can get to where like, and I've done this before where like I'll like try to sober myself up where like, look, I understand I'm acting really silly, and like I try to like be like real serious, and that lasts for about 50 seconds, and then it just takes over. But like I like to have control. I don't want to not be able to have control over myself. I don't ever want an excuse for something I've done. I mean, I guess maybe I've probably said things I shouldn't have said when I'm drunk, maybe. But, like, that's kind of the extent of it.
See, sometimes I find it, and again, it's not like Eric and I are getting plastered every weekend or anything, and I drink socially semi-frequently. I mean, Eric will vouch for this. I drink, 1 or 2 with dinner quite a bit, and I very rarely, intentionally drink any more than that. I say intentionally. Obviously, I know what I'm doing. I just mean, I very rarely am drinking to get inebriated, if that makes sense. And so, I will, I don't know what point I was making. I will, I have no idea where I was going with that. Okay. I just can't remember what I was saying. One thing I was going to say is I find it easier to convince people that I haven't been drinking than to convince people that I'm not drunk when I'm actually not drunk, if I'm just being really silly. So like if I've been drinking a little bit and I'm just acting, normal, I guess, I won't, people can't really tell if I'm not like, playing it up or whatever. If it's 2 a.m. and I'm just in a really goofy mood and I'm acting really super silly, and so people think I'm drunk when I have not had a drop, and it is impossible to convince them that I haven't been drinking.
Yeah,
and that's always funny. But I remember what I was gonna say. It's that I don't do it on purpose, but sometimes I do find it easier to say things that I want to say, as opposed to, I probably shouldn't have said that.
Because it lowers your ambitions.
Exactly. More often, it's like, and again, it's not like I drink a lot so that I can have a conversation with someone, but there have definitely been times, and I seem to not stumble over my words and stutter as much when I drink, which is weird, because for a lot of people, it's the
but you're not nervous because your inhibitions are lower.
Yeah, it makes me less nervous if I'm, especially uptight about something. So yeah, so there have been times where there was something I really needed to say to someone that I happened to be a little bit inebriated when I was with them, and I was like, this is the right time. Your turn.
Sure, let's see what I got. So this is mostly a comic book question. I guess it could be for other things.
Yeah, sure.
So when you're making a movie, let's say you're making a Batman movie. Pretend there's no Batman movies. Batman's just an easy go-to.
Yeah.
How much of your job is to interpret the work versus translate it. So
Boy, that's tough.
So, like, I've always said I would be way cooler with Tim Burton's Batman films if they were Elseworld stories.
Yeah.
Because it's not the main continuity. Whereas, as the film, it is the representation of that character to the general public.
Yeah. And at the time, the only serious one you had.
How much of, like, as a writer or director on a film like that, how much of it... when a comic book writer comes on, you're expecting to get their version of that character. But with a film, I think we tend to not actually want that. We don't want your version of Batman on screen. We want Batman on screen.
Yeah, it's tough. I think we want it to a point, but I think in some ways, boy, this is really complicated, and I'm probably going to give a really convoluted answer. So
do you just want to say it depends?
It depends. I'm gonna give you the two sides of this, the way I see it. Maybe there's more than two. So me personally, before I've seen a project, that's what makes this hard. Is I tend to look at the thing on its own terms once it's out. For what I actually want from, say, a Batman or a Superman, yeah, I want the director and the writer to bring something of themselves to it, because that's going to make it more authentic, because they're not just doing a job, they're telling a story, and that's how you tell a story. So, like, you have to bring, to some degree, something of yourself to it, but it feels like, at least in a perfect world, like your job would be to translate broadly at the very least, spirit and essence of that character, and bring something to the screen that's authentic to what that character classically always has, and to some degree through your lens. That's okay, but it's a little bit different than I'm coming onto a book that 605 other people have written on, because I can go off the beaten path and do all kinds of crazy shit, and the person after me can go back to classic if they want to.
Yeah.
There's never that fear that I'm the last one. And you have that with movies. On the other hand, once the thing is actually in front of me, I have a tendency to say, as you know, and as everybody watching this I'm sure knows, I don't care how much it has to do with what's in the comics, as long as the piece is good. And it might not even be a great Superman movie, but if it's a really good movie, I can say, that's not what I want from Superman, but I like the character they gave me. So when...
Although, how often does that really happen? Where it's someone you're familiar with, where you watch the piece and you go, it's not that character, but I like this character.
More often than you're letting on. Constantine had this.
That's not a character you were super familiar with.
No, but you were.
Well, yes.
I'm just saying characters that people were familiar with.
Yes.
Where I can say to a big fan of that character, you might. I don't mean me personally. I just mean you might be a big fan of that character, but I feel like I can look at it and say, okay, but like take it on its own terms and tell me, is it a bad movie?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a poorly? Is it not an effective story? As objectively as you possibly can you put, and it's difficult and sometimes impossible, but can you put your own personal expectations and perceptions aside and say, it's not what I wanted, but it's okay. And I mean, you say how often does that happen? Well, it happened with Nolan's Batman.
Sure.
You know, most certainly that was not my Batman, but I fell in love with it. It became my Batman.
Fair.
But at the same time, because he's not a detective, and he doesn't call himself Batman in his head. My Batman does that.
Yes,
he's
very
Bruce
much
Wayne first.
Yep.
He's a Batman that wants to quit at some point. I mean, I've written dissertation after dissertation about this. That is not my Batman. But he won me over with it.
Sure.
At the same time, many things about that character are the classic essence of Batman. It's you cannot make the argument against Nolan's Batman that you can against Snyder's Superman. Well, Superman, capital S, across the board, does not do X, Y, and Z, and he had Superman do those things. He's not always on the verge of being a fascist. He would probably not have... He probably would have looked for more opportunities to do something else before he resorted to snapping Zod's neck, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not even saying that these are my arguments, although... Those are both arguments that I have made, but I'm just using that as an example of it is very easy to say that is not the essence of Superman. That's why Mark Waid walked out. who would watch Nolan's Batman and say, that is not Batman, I'm going to walk out? It might not be their Batman, but too much of the essence of that character is still intact, I would argue.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Well, I guess Batman, in some ways, is a bad example, because we've talked about how, like, Batman can be done a million ways, and they're all authentic.
That's true, too. Yeah, absolutely. And Superman doesn't have that.
Yeah.
To the same degree.
Not really.
He's somewhere in between Spider-Man and Batman, I would say.
Yeah,
you know,
well, because, at least origin story-wise, Superman is as infinitely interpretable as Batman. Planet goes boom, he lands somewhere.
Right. And there's like a million different kinds of Kryptons. And
Yeah.
But, I don't know, I guess we're somewhat getting away from ourselves. To go back to your initial question, what exactly the job is. Yeah, that's so tough. I want to use the Thanos example again. Much to, I'm sure, the chagrin of some people. Just because I have talked about this a million times, and I'm sick of hearing myself say this. But my frustration with Thanos, obviously, as I've said before, had more to do with the fact that I wasn't won over and I didn't think ultimately that his motivations completely came together, than the fact that he wasn't my Thanos and that death wasn't involved, etc., etc. And I have been accused of not liking that Thanos just because he's not comic book Thanos. And that is not ultimately my beef with the version as it was given to us. I was frustrated because it's not what I wanted. But if it all came together, as I said earlier, I have a tendency to go, okay, it's not what I wanted, but now I'm gonna analyze it on its own terms. Did it work? Yes or no? At the same time, so this separate from my critique, you got a bunch of people that are fans of Thanos now and don't know what one of my favorite villains is like, and we can use the film medium to translate stories that people are never going to look at who just don't like the medium of comic books. So I don't know that people have a duty, that writers and directors, the filmmakers have a duty to translate those stories remotely close to what they are. But
I don't know stories.
I don't know if they have an essences of character. I don't know, but even that, I don't know if we should say they have a duty to it, over simply saying it's a missed opportunity, you know, because people who say to me, well, Cap, who cares if Thanos isn't the same in the movies? You still have the comics. I say, yes, for me, I'm frustrated that there are these great characters and stories that I have loved that other people aren't going to get to experience because they won't read a comic book, and I am sympathetic to the people who don't care for that medium. I don't know if you are. I am sympathetic to those people. I understand how difficult it is to appreciate that medium, to slow yourself down when you're reading panels. If you're used to reading 1,000-page novels every couple of weeks,
Sure.
I get this. Tim Lyons had this. Tim Lyons and I did a video where he broke down, this is why I cannot get into the medium of comic books. I've tried, I cannot do it. I'm sympathetic to that. I don't like that we get some watered-down movies that aren't actually going to bring those things to enough of a capacity, you know, to film. So I'm very I'm very conflicted.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's my convoluted answer.
Well, it's hard for me not to, in some ways, go to the kind of angry fanboy place where, like, with certain things where I'm like, well, if you couldn't do it, just don't do it. And if, like, you know, like, to some extent, like, okay, go make your own fucking movie with your own fucking characters. If you can't do this one, if you can't get Thanos to be Thanos, make your own goddamn thing.
Well, especially because
you're just using the hype behind this and
brand recognition.
To not actually realize what that is.
Yeah.
And maybe that's cynical. Maybe that's they're telling the best story they can. But like I have a knee-jerk thing kind of where it's like, well, then don't fucking bother. If you can't do your job, this goes
to a conversation you and I had earlier off camera, which is sometimes the movies feel like they're for us. And sometimes they're not. And in the case of Infinity War, it's very much both. The Thanos part was not for me. The Thanos part was translating that character in what the filmmakers felt like what the Russos in the studio probably felt like was an accessible way to bring a character that they thought would seem too unsympathetic and unrelatable and people wouldn't appreciate. And you and I can argue all day long about how, with them, because we're in agreement on this, on how that very character, more or less the way he was in the comics, could have been made fascinating and not necessarily relatable, but it wouldn't have mattered if he was relatable, and you could have gotten even a general public on your side on it, and and
this
made
is
them
a
like
public
him.
that's obsessed with serial killers like Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah,
You're telling me you can't make a character that people will find interesting?
but you can understand why they look at the stable of villains they've had, and they've said the ones that have resonated with people and worked, or the ones that have worked have been the ones that resonated with people on some kind of a philosophical or emotional level.
Yeah.
And so they felt like they had to do that with the big one that they've been building up to. I don't personally agree with that, and I think it could have been done well. But I understand why they thought that.
See, you say that Infinity War is both, like for and not for. I don't know. Like, as I've lived with that movie, it's a really good movie. I don't know if it's for me.
It's for you in the sense that, and you and I have had this conversation, I don't think you'll deny this. It gave you and I the feeling more than anything else we've ever had that we were looking at a big, massive comic book event.
No.
And it's for us in that way, in the sense, at the very least, tonally and in putting that many characters together the way they did, there are people that have never experienced a comic book event. They couldn't have articulated that. They would have had that experience.
But like as I was saying, as I was saying earlier tonight while we were discussing,
Yeah.
it has been for me a really big realization of oh, I'm never going to get what I like about comics in film. It will never happen. It will always be mainstream and watered down. I will never get something that is what it is to me is great about comic books. I mean, I'm not saying they can't be good movies. I think Infinity War is a good movie.
Or do we continue to work up toward it? Because
buddy,
in so many ways, though, we are less watered down than we ever have been. Even with Infinity War, like as much as that is not as cosmic as we would want it to be, as there were places that they weren't willing to take that. It was only 10 years ago that no studio could imagine putting that many superheroes together on screen in the first place. It takes time.
No, sure, but I also think, and Marvel...
It is possible that the next Doctor Strange film, if they greenlight one, because we haven't had an announcement yet, I don't think.
I don't think so. I think we all just assume.
We just assume, but yeah, but the next Doctor Strange film could be a lot weirder in what you want. It could just be baby steps toward it.
But it's also, it's not just the cosmic stuff. Like, I will never get a comic book movie as big. I don't think I will ever get a comic book movie as big as I want. But, because they're studio films, I don't know if I'm ever going to get a comic book film that's as dark and as risk-taking as...
You don't need that on film. You don't need that on film. Here's the important thing. Why does it matter if it's a 2-hour movie? Why does it matter if it's on the big screen? You got it with Daredevil. We didn't keep it going,
that's fair.
But you got it there.
That's fair.
And you got it with Luke Cage. And the important thing to note is you can't get perfectly translated, and obviously you're taking something from one medium to another. It's going to be different to some degree anyway. But you're not getting the same kind of serialized storytelling on film as you can on television translated from a comic book. You're already having to make some compromises.
No, I know, but I think there's a middle line that maybe you can never achieve in live action, where I don't think there'll ever be a perfect Batman movie, because a perfect Batman movie to me would be a really dark movie, theoretically.
Yeah.
But it would still be very comic booky. I don't think we can do both. We have yet to figure out how to do both.
I don't think we have yet to figure it out. I think Snyder screwed the pooch.
That's true. That's true.
What Snyder visually gave you was exactly what you're asking for.
Yes.
And they simply didn't have the script to back it up.
Yes. No, you're right. That is the...
You had live action Arkham fucking Batman, and it looked amazing.
Nope, you're right. And if that had worked...
It was just the script. I mean, they gave us a rated R version of that movie on video.
It just sucks.
It just isn't good.
I just want that, but good.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
No.
That's what I want most.
So do I, but that was a competence problem.
Yep.
Before it was anything else. That wasn't... Because maybe you won't get it with Marvel, but then I still maintain that Black Panther was the first thing to bring anything like the darkness, the appropriate darkness that you have in some of the Netflix shows.
Yeah.
With Killmonger, I couldn't believe that he had like 1,000 scars from people he had murdered. You know, I wasn't sure that you could get that kind of thing in a PG-13 Marvel film.
And that is not taking anything away from the other Marvel films. They're very good and darker, like Iron Man 3 or Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
But that is probably the closest I think Marvel's come for me in the... It is a serious film about very serious, dramatic issues, but
it's
also
really entertaining.
But also it's fun, and there's all this, weird comic booky, science fiction-y stuff too.
Yeah.
Black Panther is probably, I think, the closest to that. Like, maybe we are getting that, but I don't know. It's like new Star Wars. I feel like there's a glass ceiling that I don't know if I'm ever going to get to see broken. And consistently broken. We're like, that's just what we make now.
I would argue,
here is, Logan.
Yeah, I would, sure. And then the problem is, the problem is studios. The problem is these things are expensive to make. The problem.
Well,
is
you also want to appeal to
the
widest.
And you have to appeal to a wide enough audience that you can justify $100 million, $150, $200 million budgets. But the big hurdles you have to jump are time and money, like with so many things, right? With almost all things. So with as far as creative ventures that you have to make an investment back on, go. So you have a time problem with how long does the train keep a running, and you have a money issue with when you have something as sophisticated as Logan. And the studio with Fox, use this particular example, looks at Logan and Deadpool and says, "Okay, that's the ticket now. See, rated R comic book movies that are kind of weird and sort of take risks." At first, that's very exciting. My fear, of course, is that just becomes the new formula and.
Much like we've talked about with the Netflix thing.
New Mutants could be the big tell, where that might be yet another really interesting new avenue, or it might suddenly look really stale because it's just more of the same. Whatever that is.
Deadpool's also pretty close to what I'm looking for in a comic movie.
Yeah.
Mine's like the comedy aspects. Not that I dislike it, but like the X-Men version of Deadpool 2 is real.
And see, I have the same thing there that you do with Cosmic Marvel, where I'm like, no, I want you to go all the way with the fourth wall breaking and explain it to me. I want you to come up with an internal logic for how the hell that happens, and I don't think they'll ever give us that because I think that's too wild and out of the box.
But I want the X-Men movie that exists in the Deadpool universe without Deadpool. We're like It's the other side of that world where it's like, yes, they have full-blown fucking costumes,
right?
And they're dealing with all this stuff and like, because Deadpool would give you normal Sentinels, right?
If the train keeps a running,
right,
you will eventually get more of this. I want to think, or it will. New formulas will be made, and we'll get the same. We'll get more of the same in formulas.
Well, and I mean that's the history of all entertainment, isn't it? Like. Something is big, we get a bunch of knockoffs of that, some of them good, some of them not so good.
Right.
And then something new comes along.
Yeah. I don't want to be a downer. I think it's still a really exciting time to be into superheroes and watch them translated to screen, and I think that we are really spoiled in how many characters we've gotten to see translated and translated well. But I think you're right in being concerned that it's not always for you as a comic book fan. But I don't think you're right that there's a ceiling.
Okay.
I only think there's a ceiling if the interest wanes. And we fuck up people's interest in superhero movies because we oversaturate it with bad things. That is already happening in television.
Well, and last year was real bad for me, at least on the Marvel side. Well, Spider-Man last year, I'm trying to remember. No, I guess Spider-Man is in there, so that doesn't count. But, like,
Sure.
Doctor Strange feels
the
to
year
me
before, yeah.
the most watered-down Marvel movie. Not that it's the worst or my least favorite. It's the most watered-down, not even, like, the cosmic... Like, it's just... It feels very formulaic in a way that even Ant-Man doesn't.
But...
And
that is understandable, because that's a situation where... It's a weird character that was not super popular, that you can totally see why somebody would have a hard time just figuring out how to translate it.
No, sure, but, like, that movie almost feels like the Doctor Strange movie we would have gotten, like, 2005. Like, it's very textbook.
I don't go quite that far, just because, weirdly, this is so unusual, because it's the flip of what usually happens. The third act makes up for some of that.
Sure.
Once you get into Dormammu, they have figured out what to do with that, and it just took too long, right?
Yeah.
No, I think the mistake that was made with Doctor Strange is similar to the mistake, oddly, that was made with Iron Fist, which is, I don't know that anybody came in and was totally sure what to do with it, or maybe with both of those they were just, like, scared of the material. They're both mystical, right? I would have spun them out of something. I would have introduced Iron Fist somewhere else. I would have introduced Doctor Strange somewhere else.
Well, we talked about
I would
both,
have not made that an origin film.
Well, we talked about both in Doctor Strange, and now even more so seeing him in both Ragnarok and Infinity War. We did not need an origin film. He can just exist in that world. No one would have blinked twice.
No, I don't think so either. That's a great topic, which we could talk about all day long.
Sure.
You've had a couple of those today. Let me ask you another one.
I actually wasn't sure. Like, for a second, I was like, was that my top? Like, I forget where we started with this.
Yeah,
it was mine.
That was just your... I don't remember what the initial question was. It was about translating film... Or translating comics to film.
Yeah. Well, when you're adapting something, how much of yourself, like, how much should it be your vision versus, or your version of that versus, and then we...
What duty do you have to the material in the first place? No, that was great. That was a lot of fun. Eric, do you ever wish you'd been born a girl? You ever have that thought?
Yes.
I think at some time or another, most of us, man or woman, have the grass is always greener thought, right?
That's what I was gonna say. In the douchey way of, boy, it seems like socially girls have a lot easier.
You've got it made. Yeah. But they don't, do they?
No, certainly not.
So many
there's
things
a lot of social anxiety
women have to deal with. And stigma.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. Especially if you're a really attractive woman and you pay attention to how you look, regardless of how conservatively you are dressed, you cannot go to a lot of places without getting noticed. And I don't know that I would love that. I like being in the spotlight, but not like that necessarily. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and I
will never have the experience of being ogled like that.
Yeah.
And I like that. I'm glad I don't have to deal with that.
I've often thought, or not often, I've thought, and I've had discussions with people about this with girls. When they talk about like how like they think the dating playing field is the same. I'm like, no, it's not. You know why I know it's not? Because 99% of women can get laid at the drop of a hat if they want to, and men don't have that.
Yeah.
Like any woman can. It does not matter really what a woman looks like to a certain extent. Like, obviously, like, if they look like, Frankenstein, like, or something like that. Like, obviously, but like...
You remember the Jeff Foxworthy joke? Somebody had sex with that woman!
But, like, if it's, like, women can be really fat and be, I don't know if you've ever seen a woman's...
Because it's a hormone thing.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen a woman's, like, dating... Like on like a dating app or like OkCupid or like something like that?
I haven't.
Okay, so there is a stark difference because unless you are like a super ripped guy, you don't get you never get messages.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, guys don't get messages. Girls get nothing but messages. Like cannot deal with the number. Does not matter what you look like.
Yeah.
So like in that aspect, I've certainly and I've had discussions about this.
Social experiment. I never even thought of that. Yeah.
I once listened to an interview with one of the guys that runs OkCupid, and he talked about like all the like analytics, and the only thing distinctly that I can remember is only white men list Fish as a favorite band.
That's great. That's a good one. I like Fish.
Of course you do. You're a white man.
I guess, yeah. Fish is a really interesting band. They had a concert once where everyone was supposed to show up naked.
Really?
Yeah. Fascinating.
I thought you were going to say underwater.
I was not there, but yeah, no, because that would be a little bit too on the nose, really.
But yeah, that's really the only
farmhouse. That's a good sign. I like Fish.
That's really the only aspect where I've ever really been like
sample in a jar.
Like maybe it might be better that way. I certainly don't want periods.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, but there's trade-offs for everything.
Sure.
And I don't know. I wish there were a way to experience what it's like being the other sex for 24 hours.
Just to see.
Because it's a weird, and I think a lot of us have this preoccupation. I don't think it's weird for me to say this. Maybe it is, but I don't think it's weird for me to say this. It's one of the few things in life that you simply, there is no possible way to experience.
Well, and I think in a general kind of battle of the sexes kind of a way.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot
without surgery or whatever. There's no possible way to experience. Like if I'm saying if you
want
to remain
temporary way.
If I want to remain a man, I'm never going to know what it's like to be a woman.
I think there's a lot of men and women that have a very distinct vision of what it's like to be the opposite gender without ever having experienced it. I think women think being a man is a certain way. I think men think being a woman is a certain way.
And part of the reason it's impossible is because you have different chemical processes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in some ways you're not even thinking the same way.
Even if you could somehow jump into a woman's body, you still and experience what it's like to be her, and even with all different chemicals, and now you have estrogen as opposed to testosterone and whatever, you still would have the initial perceptions of a man. You still wouldn't fully be experiencing what it's like to be a woman because you weren't one all along.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a real existential way to look at it, but
yeah. I mean, at the very least, I guess you could get how the world reacts to them.
Sure. Yeah.
You wouldn't know exactly what it's like to have grown up a woman, but you'd at least kind of get to experience what it's like.
Right. But obviously, we react and to things somewhat differently. We think about things somewhat differently, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think it's a thought that a lot of people have. That if only I was a woman, I wouldn't have to deal with X, Y, and Z, or that kind of thing. And the thing is, that's a real superficial thing that going back to the sex thing that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really superficial thing that a lot of men do. Well, if only I was a woman, I could have sex all the time. If you're a woman, you wouldn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Most. I mean, there are sex addicts. There are female sex addicts. There are women who like being physical more than other women. But by and large, men want to have sex all the time, and women don't. And so, if you were a woman, yeah, you could have sex more often, but you wouldn't. Sex is a different thing if you're a woman. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't be thinking about it the same way as you are a man. I mean, that's a really like I said, superficial and overly simplistic way to look at it, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
Anytime I've heard a man say that, I'm like, yeah, that you said that because you're a man. That's how a lot of men think. I don't mean to stereotype everyone and put everybody in a box, but by and large, that's
I
mean, stand-up comedians have made their entire careers out of making these kinds of distinctions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Eric, throw us one more.
All right.
Maybe one more. We got about 10 minutes. Maybe we'll try to do a couple more quick ones. Unless you've got heavy ones, Eric.
No, I got nothing heavy. So I'm playing through Pokemon on my phone. I've got Pokemon on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started playing through Pokemon a couple of years ago on the phone, and I got stuck in a cave, and I was like, I don't know how to find anything. I don't know how I did this when I was like 8, and I still have that. I'm just looking everything up.
Do you just not have the patience for it, or
I don't know how I'm supposed to know where to go.
Okay.
Or, like, who to talk to get, like, this specific thing. I beat that game 3 times when I was younger. And, like, I'm playing through it, and, like, I don't feel like I'm cheating because I've beaten this game 3 fucking times. But I'm like, okay, I am done walking around. How do I get fly? And I just go and I Google. I'm like, where do you get fly? Okay, well, that's where I have to go. Oh, okay, well, if I want this, I have to go over here to get this. And, like, I just found it all when I was a kid. Like,
Yeah.
I never...
Is it because we rely too much?
It's also possible...
Is that part of what you're getting at? Or is it because we rely too much on being able to immediately look up information that our brains aren't working at the level that they would be if we knew that wasn't an option? With a lot of things, I think this is true.
No, that's true. I don't know if that's what this is.
Sure.
Where as much as it's just like... And maybe it's more just...
I'm saying subconsciously in the back of your mind.
Well, maybe it's more just like I'm not invested like I was when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'm not going around talking to every single NPC. I'm not...
You're playing it from a different mindset. When you're a kid, you're like, yay, video games. When you're an adult, you're like, I got 10 minutes to play a video game. And
and I'm kind of just
something else.
killing time while I'm doing something, you know. Yeah, I guess...
But what I'm talking about still stands to a degree. It's a mindset issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not concerned about learning everything... Because, okay, well, I'll just go look it up. Like, I want to say I could figure these things out.
And there's
if
also
I was
a
really
beginner's
dedicated.
luck thing, too, sometimes, where the fact that you played it multiple times could actually be botching yob.
Mm.
Because I can't tell you the number of times that I've done something perfectly and then had to go and do it again and just could not get over the goddamn chasm. Just, you know, playing a platform or whatever. Like, first time through, you had, like, the buzzsaws coming down, and you got bats trying to hit you and all these things, and I get through a level, and I have no problem with it, and then the next time I try to play it, like, now I'm anticipating all those horrible things happening to me, and I haven't memorized the level, and so I just, you know, have shit luck, and horrible things happen to me.
Yeah, I don't know, there's something different. And I'm sure a lot of it probably is just mindset, but, like, I'm playing this, I'm like, how the fuck did I figure this out? Like, I was, like, 8, maybe younger than that, maybe 6 or 7. I'm not sure exactly when Pokemon comes out, but, like, I was really young when I was playing that game, and, like, maybe it's also just you have way more free time when I was a kid. Like, I think right now it says I've played, like, 13 hours or something, because I'm just, you know, doing fights or whatever while I'm watching TV or whatnot. I could probably be... you know, way further back and be at 13 hours as an 8-year-old.
Yeah, and you have, and also you're not clocking it back then, you know, and like we think of things in terms of like gameplay hours now. We didn't do that back then. But more to the point, when you're a kid, you experience time differently.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, there was that study that came out that said that based on how we perceive time, 10 years old is half your life.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Which makes so much sense because I mean the last 10 years of my life have just flown by, and I'm about 34, and that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. It's disappointing. That's a thought I've had a lot of, just like with the gender thing, where I'm like, what would it be like if I could put my mind in my body as a 7-year-old?
Yeah.
Like, what would life be? Because you can only remember what it felt like.
Yeah.
But you don't actually know what it was like. Or at least not the way you would perceive it now.
Right. Because you know a lot more, and you have a better understanding, hopefully, of how the world works and what adult life is like and that kind of thing. And so there's all these... It's sort of like... I use this example a lot, probably too much and for everything, but it's sort of like 60s Batman again, where you watch it when you're a kid and there's the surface layer, and you watch it when you're an adult and there's another layer, there's subtext. Your whole life is like that. If you could go back and look at it now, there'd be all these bits of subtext and extra context where you'd be like, oh, that's what my mom was talking about when she was pretending, or when she was talking to somebody else in the room and didn't think I was listening, and you know, that kind of thing.
Do you have and you don't have to answer this, but do you have like a first memory of like when you, like as a kid, where you're like, oh, maybe my parents don't know everything. Like, maybe my parents aren't... Because, like, as a kid, you assume your parents know everything. And there's a lot of things I look back on where I'm like, Oh yeah, especially as I'm getting older, I'm like, oh, my parents were just human beings, or continue to just be human beings. Do you have like a first moment where you're like, there's a slight flaw in that?
The way I'm going to answer that question is I'm going to cop out, and I'm going to say it's...
As I was thinking of the question, I was like, there's a possible answer that I don't...
No, and you know my background.
Yeah,
it's going to make everybody very interested in a story, in stories I won't tell. But let me answer it by saying this. I know places, maybe a place or two with each of my parents where it should have been and wasn't. Once again, extra context being added to my having more of an understanding of their history and psychology and people's psychology in general, just how people seem to function and operate. It is astounding how much your parents can fuck up and you don't notice.
Yeah.
And
thank
how
God,
much
right?
you still, right? Yeah, sure. Especially me as a parent now. Yeah, thank God, because I'm a dad. And I mess up all the time, and I'm still waiting for my son to be like, no, Dad, let me show you how it's done.
Oh, you don't know what you're doing.
You don't know anything. Yeah, and I feel very incompetent sometimes with certain things. I don't mind saying, compared to my wife, and I probably to my kids, sometimes look like the less competent of the two. I feel like, and then I realize. No, Jason doesn't see me that way. And someday, God forbid, he might, to some degree, or he
you got
might.
Those teenagers coming.
Or he might understand, there's my dad's strengths and my mom's strengths,
yeah,
that kind of thing. But I mean, like, no, there are a couple places I can think back to where I knew about a thing that one of my parents was doing, and I still in each of them, not one of each of them, at different points, and still thought of them as flawless or close to flawless, and that's astounding.
Mm-hmm. I can tell you the first, at least as far as I can remember, the first moment of doubt I had about specifically my mother. My dad's a weird case because there's a whole bunch of stuff there where like you're saying, where I'm like, my dad was far from a perfect individual. I barely saw my father because he worked night shifts.
Some of that's a proximity thing too, where the one that you like if your parents are split, the one you don't get to see very often. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that is the more godlike being.
Mm-hmm.
Almost always, especially if you really connected with them before they weren't there all the time.
Mm-hmm. But no, I distinctly remember the first, or as far as I can remember, the first moment of really having doubt about my mom being the all-knowing, sage in my life was she said something about another kid's mom not knowing anything. And I had this moment of but she's also a parent. And who are you to say that you know more than they do? I just all of a sudden it was I saw the world, and I was like, wait, you're just saying things, and they're just saying things, and I'm supposed to believe you because you're my parent, but
yeah,
they feel the same way. That's the first time I remember having now wait a second, how does that work?
Yeah, that's really interesting.
But do you have a final topic?
I was looking through because we're about out of time. I was trying to come up with one that wouldn't take us a long time to talk about. But I'll throw one out real quick. This is one we could revisit at some point. I thought it might be kind of amusing for folks if we did this here, because this is not a thing, of course, we would talk about at length on the channel, and I don't want to be disingenuous toward anyone, and this isn't about talking about anybody in particular, but this is an aspect of what we do, and obviously you're not going to always have perfect comment sections and on YouTube, and you're not gonna always have nothing but nice people who embrace your opinions and aren't ass faces. It's gonna happen. What are your least? And I guess I'm thinking about videos we make or videos you've made, but I guess it could just be in general on YouTube. What sorts of comments irritate you the most? The kinds of things where you go, why do people have to leave comments like that? What are the ones that annoy you the most?
First, I can't believe that's still happening.
11 years in. 12 years in. No, 12 years in.
Happening.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Now, most of the time when I see it on our channel, it seems to be people doing it ironically. And one thing I do think is kind of funny is when somebody.
But that joke
first,
hasn't died either.
No, it hasn't.
Doing it
weird.
ironically.
But I do like first and then a comment thread where it goes up to 6 or 7. I think that's hilarious.
No, that's not bad. Or I also like when somebody like,
especially because it stops being accurate when there's other comments past it, right? If someone says first. And then someone else leaves a normal person comment, but the comment thread goes second, third, fourth. No, you have to skip one because somebody else left a comment. I
also like it when there's like 3 or 4 comments and then a first. I think that's amusing, and I never know whether that's intentional or not. So first, I don't like it when people. This has happened on our videos, but I've also seen it on other videos.
Yeah.
I don't like it when people are so fucking convinced you're wrong, and they write like a 19-page essay in the comments, and it just keeps going and going. No one's reading that. No one is reading that in the YouTube comments. I don't care if you do this one, or if you leave 15 fucking comments for each 3 paragraphs piece. No one is reading. Like, I know you think that someone's going to read it, and they're going to see the light, and they're going to get it.
Well,
no one's reading it.
I appreciate constructive criticism, but maybe that's not the place for an essay. I mean, maybe if you think, I really need, a response in that kind of detail, maybe a personal message or something would be more appropriate. But
and then, I guess the third kind of comments that really get to me are the ones that are disheartening to me, where, like, I realize, like, as I often do, like, people aren't really a fan of things that I'm a fan of, or like I am. Like, there were comments where like,
you don't like it when you post a video. I know where you're going with this. You don't like it when you post a video and all the comments are about other stuff.
No, that's not something.
Is that not where you're going?
No. Although that's annoying.
I've heard you complain about that a lot.
I'm sure I am still on my previous channel getting requests to review Legend of Korra.
Well, we get that on our channel.
That's true.
I don't mean Korra specifically, but just where you'll post a video and it's something a little bit more off the beaten path, and you'll have 10 comments, and 2 of them are about the actual video, and 8 of them are when are you finally going to review such and such superhero movie?
No, it's and there's a lot of comic book thing that happens in the real world too. I've talked so much about how, and I've talked multiple times here in After Dark about. What I don't like about what's happened to geek culture is it makes it much harder for me to find people that actually like the things I like, right?
Okay.
Actual comic book fans kind of a thing. As opposed to just, I really like the Marvel movies. That's not taking anything away from those people, but like, it's not what I'm looking for, and I don't like it when people, or when it feels, I don't know. But there's been a couple of comments about Infinity War where I'm like, well, it's not really that cosmic. Like, they go to space, but it's not cosmic. And people are like, how much more cosmic could it be? I'm like, well, you just don't read comic books.
Yeah.
You've never read a comic book. Like, and that's disheartening to me where I'm like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about.
Folks are entitled to their own opinion. If you have actually read Infinity Gauntlet and you don't think Thanos is interesting, and that's where you get off saying something like, well, he's just a stereotypical male after Tale. Okay, I disagree with that, and we can argue about it, but I tend to think that much more of those comments are people who have never read an Infinity Gauntlet and who heard someone say that,
yeah,
and are just parroting that. I don't know if that's true. It might be disingenuous of me to say that.
Well, we've talked about this. But I never saw anyone say that before the movie came out.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
No, but it's just like the fact that someone would be like, "Well, how much more cosmic could it be?" I'm like, you have no idea. There could be cosmic beings. There could be people who move through space. There could be people of, like, grand power.
Yeah.
Like, it could be actually cosmic. There could be people that have a cosmic awareness, and, like, there was no response. And, like, that's disheartening to me, where I'm like, oh, like, and, like, obviously, I'm going to say not all, but probably most of our viewers are not comic book readers. Probably. Just based on statistics and...
Yeah.
But I like to think that they are. I like to think that most people who watch us are...
And it's not like I need them to be or whatever, and I've always been really mindful of that, and I've tried to be aware of it so that when I'm writing a rewind, I'm not talking over people's heads.
Yeah.
I worried about that with the last one, where I'm talking about like a bazillion comic properties, or turn superhero movies, and I'm having to try not to write too much in shorthand, and it's still a 54-minute video. Where I don't want to leave anybody out. Like if you're superhero rewind, I assume you've watched the movie that I'm reviewing, and I'm not necessarily assuming anything else about you. Now, with MCU and stuff, yeah, you probably see more MCU movies and that kind of thing. And at this point, it's much, much harder to not, talk over some people's heads.
You're not going to do your rewind of Infinity War and not mention pretty much every film that led up to it.
Yeah, sure. And talking in such a way where I'm expecting that most people that have listened to it have probably also seen those movies. So I'm not going to sit there and explain what happened in Iron Man 1. That kind of thing. One of my one of the comments that really cracks me up that I get quite frequently, that I don't want to say like really super irritates me. It's just I don't know whether to respond to them or not. I guess I do. It's just I get. Obviously, I get so many comments, I can't respond to everything. And when somebody asks me a legitimate question, I want to respond to it. But sometimes people will ask a question that, forgive me, is not a trollish question, but if you're familiar at all with Rewind, sounds like kind of a dumb question. I hate even saying that. That it's a mean thing to say. Okay, if you've only watched 1 or 2 rewinds and you don't actually look at playlists and you don't realize I've done like 160 something of these.
Well, they're asking for ones you've already done.
No, that's okay. I understand that. I mean, you just didn't look it up. No, my favorite thing is when somebody goes, "Are you going to review Civil War?" No, that one I'm going to skip.
Yeah.
I'm going to do every other superhero. That one I'm skipping.
Yeah.
That always cracks me up. I love that.
I also don't like ones that make me feel old.
Oh, okay.
I don't like the comments where it's like, I remember when I was 7 and I saw the Avengers in theaters. And I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like that one
There's
bit.
nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't make me feel good.
Yeah, okay. All right, fair enough.
It's very strange to me. Where and I've seen that just everywhere on the internet, where like just regardless of our channel or YouTube, just everywhere on the internet where like people are like, oh yeah, I remember when I saw that when I was a kid. And I'm like, it's the Amazing Spider-Man. What do you mean when you were a kid? It's very I don't like it. It makes me feel very old.
One thing that I don't love this going either direction. Every now and again I'll get complaints that we don't swear on the channel, and I don't love that because it's just what we've decided to do. And if you want to hear us swear, you can come here. But
yeah,
obviously we shouldn't make a show just to swear, and I'm trying not to make that what this is.
No, I don't think it is.
I just think that's a fucking horrible idea.
Yeah, yep.
But it's just it's a shit idea, Eric.
Yep.
But
piss poor.
Yeah, I that you could say on the channel. You can say piss poor on the channel.
I don't
You
use
think
piss. No, I don't use.
Piss poor is like.
I wouldn't say it on the channel. And we've talked about this. There are things I think you think are okay to say on the channel that I will never say on the channel because I don't know what the line is, and so I won't go to a place.
Yeah, and
I struggle with kick-ass or badass.
Yeah, and I have started using that more often.
You have?
I don't have a great synonym.
Mm-hmm. Other than just being like awesome.
Yeah, you can say that, but that means something specific. And I have certainly gotten a little bit looser. And I don't mean to not be clear about what the rules are, but I would have to write.
No, I just stay as far away as I can, so there's no possible way.
I would have to write like a 15-page.
These are the words.
Rule book.
The words you can't say on Geekvolution.
And then I would end up breaking the rules, and then you would be, but Captain Logan, page 6, paragraph 3, clearly states.
Hell can only be said when speaking of the place. I think hell I'll use, but even then, maybe not. Because it's a learned. It's not about you or the channel. It's the same part of my brain that I developed with my siblings. It's the no swearing brain.
Sure.
Or it's the no swearing part of my brain. And so I'm not even thinking about I'm not even really thinking about what is and isn't appropriate for the channel. It's just
you're not afraid of what I'm going to say in the moment.
No. I just have a conditioned, I have all of those words are filed out of that part of the brain, and it's the part of the brain I developed for working and for being with my younger siblings.
But going the other direction, because we're a family-friendly channel, sometimes I'll get this is few and far between. Every now and again, I'll get a comment where someone will go, I think, really far the other way, where I've said something pretty innocuous.
Like badass.
Or even more innocuous than that. I've had people complain about like minor self-deprecating humor, where I will in the moment say something like, "Okay, I'm an idiot," and somebody will leave a comment and say, "I don't like the place where you said you were an idiot." I don't understand that. It's not even a comment that annoys me. I just don't understand that.
Yeah.
But some of this is like colloquial and vernacular, where like you're raised in a certain area and in a certain way, and maybe what I'm saying doesn't translate to certain people. The way it might to somebody else. I want to mention my favorite disparaging comment of all time.
Okay.
I told you about this.
Okay.
And but I don't know. I've never told Patreon about this. It's my favorite. It was really early on. It was like a year in, and it was a rewind, and it was at the time one of the longer rewinds. It was maybe like 20 minutes, but obviously they're a lot longer now much of the time. Somebody left a comment and they simply wrote, "Shut the fuck up." It's my favorite. It's a video where all I'm doing is talking.
That's pretty good.
But I've gotten that one a few times where it's like, "God, you just talk too much," and I'm like,
you clicked
on
a 40-minute video. What did you expect to happen?
Didn't you know what the timestamp was?
Do you think I was going to charades my analysis of this film?
Yeah. Yeah, were you expecting pictographs? What? Yeah. So that's always funny. Well, anyway, I thought that might be an amusing thing to talk about on Patreon, because and of course the one kind of comment I will delete is like really awful vulgar things about a member of my family. It's not the only thing I'll delete, but those I've gotten rid of. But anyways,
I think that's the only thing you delete.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hate it because I don't like a lot of like really vulgar things in the comments because it is a family-friendly channel, but
there's nothing you can do about it.
I don't have all day to police it.
Yeah.
And the problem is I'll start deleting comments where somebody disagreed with me on something and probably had a perfectly valid point, and I don't want to look like I'm, censoring people. And
you can only control what happens in the screen. The rest of it's YouTube.
Yeah,
your channel is what that video is.
And I have had
everything else you have no power over.
Yeah, I have had folks that have been annoyed at me for not doing more to get rid of that kind of stuff, as if the comments are part of the video. They're just not.
No, it's not our job to police that, and we shouldn't be policing it. It's just people expressing themselves.
I have to be careful, not to let Jason look too much at comments sometimes. I mean,
Sure.
it's unfortunate.
Sure.
But
there's unless you spent all day deleting comments.
I would have to hire someone.
Yeah.
That would have to be somebody's part-time job. But anyway, that's going to be Geekvolution After Dark for this week. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. And leave your comments and let us know what you thought about some of the stuff that we talked about today. And what is going on? Omnibus next week. And then Dan and I, very soon, are going to be doing the Homecoming commentary.
Oh, cool.
So look forward to that. I announced it like a week ago.
Oh, that was one of my topics. I had a topic that I was trying to remember that I had a topic and I hadn't.
Did you not write them down?
No, I did.
You write down your topics,
no,
Eric?
But when I was writing down my topics, I was like, I know this one I've had in my head for a while, and Homecoming reminded me.
Well, you should probably write it down for next time.
Yeah, I will write it down for next time. You keep doing the wrap up.
And then we're gonna be doing the Star Trek 3 commentary soon with the Treknado guys. So Trek fans, look forward to that. And I'm gonna be working this week on. It won't come out necessarily this week, but I'm gonna be working on the Transformers 1986 science fiction rewind, and then right after that I'm going to be doing... Okay, I'll go ahead and announce this for Patreon, but you guys do me a favor and don't start spreading it around yet, because I want to make it a surprise that I reveal at the end of the science fiction rewind. But Malik Myers turned in a request, a request with donation for the first season of Daredevil on Superhero Rewind, and that's going to be the next thing after that, and that will probably honestly take a couple weeks to get watched and notes taken for and stuff. And that one, Eric, is going to be really interesting, and I'm a little bit apprehensive about, because that's going to be the first time I've ever done a season overview like that.
Is that the first one?
Yeah, I mean, I did Power Rangers, but it's going to be the first time that I've done like like
something with internal
in,
logic.
in,
and
analysis on a whole 13-episode story front to back. I've
More
never.
like it's more like a novel.
Where it's like a 13-hour movie. I've never done anything like that, and it's I get real nitty gritty in the rewinds. It's gonna be.
Well, how many times can you rewatch it? When you're preparing for rewinds, you'll just kind of keep.
I don't always do that. I mean, it depends on how well I know the thing. It's more just I stop a lot and take a lot of notes. If I've never seen a thing before, I usually give it a second watch.
But it's been a while since you watched Daredevil. Would you want to watch through it and then watch through it and take notes?
No, I've seen it twice.
Okay.
I know it well enough. The bigger issue is how much into detail do you get. I'm not going episode to episode. I'm not making separate reviews. So it has to be a little bit more overviewy than a rewind generally would be. I mean, I get real thorough and nitty gritty. I mean, like, it will be thorough, but there are things you simply would have to leave out. You'd almost have to make it a little bit more thesis-y. I think. I mean, we'll see what it ends up being like, but.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's the next thing. Like I said, try not to spread that around, folks. If you don't mind, yeah. But I like to drop things like that for Patreon because you guys are great and we love you and we really appreciate your helping us out with all the stuff that we do here on the channel. We're gonna bid you adieu right now and see you again with more videos coming up very shortly. I am Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
See you.